We got an image. Somebody asked me how to bend this. Um, I can show you how to bend that. We'll go into Blender. I'll try to real quickly reproduce that uh, item. All right. Now, before I begin, when you have an object and you're in edit mode, for example, like I'm in object mode, I pick the object, I go to edit mode. You can hit A to select all. That'll select all the faces. What you can do at this point is go to edge, subdivide, and depending on the amount of subdivisions, depends on the amount of flexibility this thing can have to bend. If it doesn't have subdivisions, it's not going to bend. Now, what a subdivision is basically the same thing as it does the same things if you were to make a loop cut, which that item that we saw in that picture looks something similar to this. Um, Not exactly sure exactly the number of cuts and whatnot it had, so it's kind of in the ballpark. So normally, if you want to try to bend something, oh, and by the way, loop cuts can go this way too, and that's what you would have to add. You'd have to add them up and have some going this way as well, across. But that's why subdivision does great to just do it all for you, so you don't have to go back and start crisscrossing and whatnot. It's more uniform, you know what I mean? It's more uniform. So turn on X-ray, that way I can select the nodes that are in the back too. Nodes, vertices, whatever you want to call them. And I always forget to take this, put this back. So we'll select these and we'll move them down. You can see I didn't select them all because I didn't turn on X-ray. Also, I'll turn on proportional editing. So if I move this down now, it'll, if I use page up and page down after I hit the move key, it doesn't do anything. I'm not sure what's going on. What's going on? There we go. I'm not sure what was the deal. Something was going on, wasn't it? So using page up, page down, you can adjust the amount of influence that something has when you move it to its neighbors nearby. But this would not bend the other way unless you had, like you couldn't bend it that way because there's no loops. And the only way you could really add them after the fact, we just go to edit mode here and you can start putting them in between. Like I showed you a second ago, you can just do this. And then you can put some across this way. Now it can bend pretty much any direction, depending on what you're going to do with it. Let me show you another thing. You go to object mode. Now this is the way I would bend something. I'd add a mesh cube. And I would say, like, say I want to make a loop, like a loop. Now I'm in object mode now, not in edit mode. So like this is the road, for example. Maybe not that. Let's see, just scale that this way. All right, now what I'm going to do is take this object, go to edit mode, add one loop cut right in the middle. And then over here, when this pops up, slide that slider. So I put 100 cuts in it. You could put more if you want it even smoother, but now I'm going to go to object mode. Well, I'm in object mode. I'm going to go to add circle, no, mesh circle. I'm going to move it up here, scale it. Now these are move, rotate, scale. You can use these two. I use the hotkeys to move things, usually G and Z to move just up and down axis. Now pick this object, go over here to material properties and add a modifier, add a simple deform. You're going to pick bend, and then you're going to pick the origin as this circle. Now this is not going to bend correctly like this. It's got to be on the right thing. Let me move this circle and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Or rotate it rather. Rotate 90 degrees that way. And I go back to this. Let's see. I always forget exactly which one it is that bends it the way that I want to bend it. Depending on where the circle is rotated to, depends on how it bends it. I always forget when I come in here, like, which one is it? I might have had it right the first time. There we go. It's that way.
Regina's here. She's going to drive me over to Christian's.
Okay. All right, that's proper. So just remember, the circle's facing this way. Which you would think, like, well, if I want to make a loop that way, maybe it would seem like it would be the other way, but now things aren't like they seem. So we'll just complete the loop. Now what I'm going to do is, if you wanted to use this as a loop, you would need to also rotate this just a tad, just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. You can hold down shift for more precise movement, but I think that'll work right there. Now I'm going to rotate this thing around. Well, actually, I'm going to apply the simple deform so that it takes, a form there. I'm going to rotate this thing around. I'll move it up. Now I'm going to pick this here. I go to edit mode. Now I'm going to pick this face. Pick that face right there. And I'm going to say extrude region. I'm going to pick X, Y, Z, and I'm going to tell it to move along that axis, whatever that one is. Oh, I didn't mean to do it. I meant to just make one long one there. Now it is kind of crooked. If you ever run out of viewing distance, go up to view, and you can tell the end to be a lot farther away. Unless you're making big objects. Now let's see. I'll do the same thing with this one over here, y'all. Grab that one's face, extrude, and that would be now remove it. Now select everything and just rotate everything. Kind of line my roads up. They're not going to be perfectly straight. I think that'll work. What you think? We got us a loop. A loop a loop. Now if we go back to object mode, you see all these faces. You can say shade smooth. Boxes don't usually do right when it comes to shading smooth. It can make some weird looking shadows and stuff. I don't like that. I think I'd rather have the thing looking like that. But what I'll do instead is I'll just go back to edit mode. I'll just pick the faces here. I'll just do face select and I'll just select them like this. That way I'm not making the edges also smooth, which was causing that weird look. So that shade smooth. Face shade smooth. Damn, it's still messed up. I don't know. I usually make these with like a flat plane. I made it with a box this time, but yeah, oh well. Be alright, I reckon. Just have to, it'll have to ship just like it is. Alright, we don't need the circle anymore, or the camera, or the light. Alright, we don't have a texture for it. I didn't even do the UVs or anything like that for it, so I guess if you want to put a texture on it, I mean, you can put a texture on it. Probably would have been better to put the texture on it before we bent it all around into a loop, but it's not that big a deal. We can still do it. We'll just say mesh, not mesh. Let me think for a second. Make a texture, just loop, call it loop 1. Just so it's got a texture. Let's find an image, something that we can tile. Desktop. I don't know. Let's try that one. Yeah, I knew that wasn't gonna line up right. UV editor. Let's pick a face. So let me apply all transforms. That way I can unwrap these faces here. Oh, apparently that was all that was wrong with the shading too. I didn't apply all transforms after scaling the thing, so that was what the deal was. So unwrap. And over here is a scaled down version of our loop. Not sure what that is. Well, it's like a little toy car track. Like one of the kinds, you press your finger on the trigger and the little cars move around the track by electricity. That's what that extra one is. How'd that end up like that? There we go. Alright, now we want to put it in the game. Oh, look at that. I'm getting careless. Careless. I'm not sure the size of this. Let me import in the car from the game. Import in desktop. Wow, that's a big loop. Because that's the car. And it's upside down for some reason. Yep, that's a big loop there. I don't think there's a car in the game that can make it around a loop like that. I don't know, but maybe people can try it. Hell, I'll post it if anybody wants to try it. Oh, most important. Let's delete this car. Always go to these two balls up here and hit that little arrow and say face orientation. See, if you were to use this track right now, you'd be very unhappy because it would eat your car. The normals are reversed. To fix that, we go to edit mode with the object selected. And in this case, they can all be flipped because they're all inside out. So I hit A, mesh, normals, flip. Now that is a drivable loop. Yeah, I didn't realize how this thing worked until just like 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, that's what that does. I'm always getting normals flipped the wrong way. So you can name this if you want to call it. Let's call it Big Loop. I don't know what kind of system you have. Maybe it's got, a good CPU and all that. I'll see how many polygons it is real quick though. Oh man, I ain't worrying about that. That's nothing. 400 and something faces. That's nothing to worry about. The easiest way to get this in the game is just export it like this. But then you just have to tell the game that it's used to use the. I'll show you. First, we got to make this texture loop 1. So grab like a main materials from .json. Actually, you know what? I'll show this the easiest way. I have a feeling the easier way would be the better way to explain it. Alright, so what level do you want your loop in? Let's just test it in small grid map. So we'll go to small grid. We'll go to small, hold on a second. Alright, we'll go to small grid. I like to make separate folders for things. Big loop. That's where you see in the art folder of the small grid. That's where I made this. But you can stick it in the art folder too. It just means that your texture is going to also be in the main.materials.json, which that's fine. You can do that. Just be sure you make your texture before you import in your model, or it'll be red. I'm going to go to Blender, and I'm going to set the origin to the 3D cursor, apply all transforms, export DAE, and in that folder, small grid, art, big loop, the big loop, .dae, big loop. It's going to copy that texture into that folder, and it's going to put the DAE file into there. So now we can load small grid and hit F11. Material editor. If you don't have that, it's up here, window, material editor. Make that new material. So I said it's loop 1. I think, let me make sure. Yeah, loop 1. Create. See, we get a white box. That means nothing is, no texture map is selected. So now we just pick this little white box. We can go into the art folder, into the big loop folder, and grab that decal or texture. Now we can save this. Now we can import in our model. The texture should go right on it. So in the asset browser, in the art folder, in the big loop folder, the big loop. Now, I don't see it. I know I dragged it on the desktop, but I don't see it. Oh, that's because I damn tried to drag the decal on the desktop. Ah, what a dum-dum. Ah, real dum-dum. Oh, I forgot about the bottom. That looks like. So we'll re-export it. And it should instantly update in the game. Yeah. So the next thing is you will just add collision mesh. Basically, since you didn't make one in the Blender, you'll just tell collision type to be visible mesh final. Rebuild collisions, and you're ready to give this thing a test drive. So let's stick a car on it. Oh, we'll see what we can do. I can tell you now, we're not gonna make it around that. It's not gonna happen. I mean, it was a good attempt. You need something like the bus wouldn't make it because it's too long. It would bottom out or something, trying to get around that. Let me try this real quick. Let's try something quick. Let's try this vehicle. Let's see. I'm just gonna load one thing. Something's got a little power. That'll bottom out, I'm sure. Let's see. One of these is dragster. All right. Who says we gonna make it? Who says we ain't? I think it'll be close. Well, we would have made it if we had steered better. Maybe. Well, voila. Alright, so I'll just pack this thing up. Now since wait a minute. Shoot. I forgot something. God, I forgot. I don't think. I don't think I saved the texture after I added that material map to it. I mean, I know I saved it, but then I added a texture to it. I don't think I saved the texture. Oh, I guess I did. Well, I didn't do the sides. I'm not worrying about that though. All right, so I did save the texture. So thing is, it probably wrote the texture in the main thing in here. I don't know where it wrote it at. Oh, there it is. It's right here. See, that's why I don't like using that because then it adds all this unnecessary stuff to it, telling it where the texture is. As long as the texture is in there where this main dot materials is, it's not a problem. That's why I always write my stuff different. I always do it different than this. I always do it where I can basically have the thing where I want it to be, and be able to move it where I want to move it to without any problems. Without having to worry about, well, this thing calls it textures over here, blah, 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 blah. So what I just do is I just take like main dot materials. I'll go into the folder. Let's see, where is it at? Big loop. Big loop. Copy this into here. And I'll make this the actual texture. And like I said, I don't need all this because it's in there with it. That's extra. Don't need that one. Save and load the level. Let's delete temp folder. Now, because it's like it is, you see it loaded. I can take that now and move it into any level and it'll load the same way. Small grid art, big loop. Where you at, big loop? Copy to clipboard, and I'll show you like this map here in the art folder. Paste. So it's got its own folder in there. Now I'll load that level, and it'll be in that level. Don't have to fool with no textures. And there it is. Textured and everything, ready to go. Oh yeah, I gotta finish that. right, I think that's it. I'll put a link to this big loop in the description. Just remember, extract it. Extract that folder and put that folder in your Levels art folder so it has its own folder, just like that. And it'll load just like that for you.